Well, hello. I want to start this episode by asking you a question. Are you confused about the state of your own boundaries? Are you? Do you wonder, do you know how to do it? Are you doing it right? Are you doing it at all? Well, that is exactly what I'm going to be talking about in this episode. 7 signs your boundaries suck, so you can figure out how to make them suck less. If you don't know me, my name is Terri. I'm a licensed psychotherapist, a relationship expert, the founder of Real Love Revolution and Boundary Bootcamp, and I'm also the author of my very first book called Boundary Boss, The Essential Guide to Talk True, Be Seen, and Finally Live Free, which is coming out in April, like soon, April 20th, 2021. Wow, you guys, I'm so excited. I can't even stand it. Woo! All right, so in this episode, I'm going to teach you the 7 top signs that your boundaries suck. Well, because you know what? You got to know it to fix it, correct? You know that is accurate. So before we get started, I want to make sure that you are subscribed to this channel. You are sitting here watching it right now. And if you like the video, how about give it a thumbs up? Like it. Just see the little bell right there. Just click that little bell so that you'll be notified every time I drop something new and you want to learn something about yourself or about your life. And I want to thank you so much. You guys know how I love that you make so many comments and I'm constantly interacting with you. But I want to read a recent one from Amy. And this was in reference to a video that I did on the hidden dangers of hyperpositivity. She said, "Thank you, Terri, for this subject. I'm really trying to be authentic and get out of the behavior to please everyone but myself. I've been feeling my emotions more and connecting with them better, and this is helping me more to just be present and real with myself." Amazing. So, Amy, props to you. I'm so excited that the show is helping you. And for the rest of you, if you have not been commenting and interacting, it's a whole community here. Please do, because I look at it, I watch it, I comment. I am witnessing you guys all the time. And if you are not subscribed, do it right now. Okay. Let's talk about the top 7 signs that your boundaries suck, shall we? I think we shall. Sign number 1, you're exhausted. Now, yes, there are plenty of things that can cause exhaustion. But I have to say, having disordered boundaries is one that is a specific kind of exhaustion. It is a bit more of a mental exhaustion, and which will manifest physically as well, but where you just are like, oh my God, I can't. Like, I'm so tired. It takes so much bandwidth when we have disordered boundaries, when we say yes when we want to say no, when we don't set limits with people, when we cannot talk true, as the subtitle of my book says. We are exhausted because we're doing 15 times the amount of work that we need to do and still not getting the result that we seek. The second sign is you're resentful. So when the first thing I usually say when someone says, I don't know, how my boundaries are, I feel like I have problems with them, but I don't understand. And I always say, how do you feel? How resentful are you and with whom? Because this will tell you where a boundary has been crossed, a need is not being met, perhaps. So how resentful are you? And if you feel quite a bit of resentment, I promise you that absolutely means that your boundaries do suck and you need to get specific and figure out where you're really falling down on yourself when it comes to creating clear, concise boundaries, communicating those boundaries. Sign number 3 that your boundaries suck, you have an unbalanced relationship. Or you have unbalanced relationships, multiple. So what does that mean? It means that you maybe overgive, overdo, do more than your share of the work to keep it going, to keep someone happy, to keep the friendship alive. Because this isn't just, you guys realize, obviously, we need boundaries in all of our relationships. This is not just a love relationship type thing. So are you always offering to do more? Do you feel like if you stopped putting in the effort, some of these relationships would just literally fall apart? So you got to, really doing some kind of an inventory in your own mind of like, Is there, and listen, I'm not talking about equal effort all the time, of course not. But there has to be mutuality. And a lot of times if we have shitty boundaries, we don't, it isn't equal. You are overgiving and feeling number 1 and 2, exhausted and resentful, All right, let's move on to number 4. Do you ruminate? Do you find yourself thinking quite a bit about situations where perhaps you wished you had said something different, you had done something different, or you may be ruminating about what an idiot someone is, right? How nervy they are, how entitled they are, what you can't even believe that Betty would ask you that. Like, wow, Betty, what the hell is wrong with her? Like ruminating and then making a plan. Next time I see Betty, I'm going to say this. You go through the whole thing in your mind. But keep in mind, when you ruminate, you're basically either reliving an already crappy experience that you wished you had said or done something different in. Maybe you acted like it was fine, but then now you think about it and think about it. Every time you do that, your body doesn't know that you're not in that situation. Your whole body, your fight or flight gets kicked up. Your cortisol gets released, adrenaline gets released. So it's as if the anxiety that you're feeling, you're literally every time that you repeatedly go over something, which is really what rumination is, you're triggering your body to have that anxious, crappy, anger-invoking experience again and again and again. So rumination, dude, I did an episode not that long ago on how do you transform rumination into self-reflection. So if you haven't seen that, go to it. It is a good one. All right, but that's sign number 4, that your boundaries suck. Moving on to sign number 5. You talk shit behind people's backs. Anybody? So Betty is nervy. She asks you something. She asks for something. She does something. In the moment, you go, smile, say nothing. Maybe, you do something else, which we're going to get to in one of the other signs. But you don't talk true to Betty in that moment. And the second you get off the phone with Betty, you are diving onto the phone with your other friends, with your sister, with someone else, to say what an entitled idiot Betty is. What a jerk. She's so ungrateful. I cannot believe that she would ask me to do that. Anybody? Or that she would continue to. Doesn't she see all the things I've already done for her? Yeah, I don't even know why I'm friends with Betty. Well, I don't either. And Betty probably doesn't even know that you feel this way. So when we talk behind people's backs, when we triangulate, because that is exactly what that is, where you are talking about someone instead of talking to them, this is what happens. Where it's not a good way to problem solve, obviously, but you also end up in the same position. You are reinforcing the bad behavior with Betty because she doesn't even know you feel that way, or she does and doesn't care, which is also something you need to deal with. But what you're doing is all the energy that could be going into this supposed friendship with Betty is now being just discharged all over town by talking to other people. It is so friggin' pointless, and it's unhealthy. So, bad boundary. That was bad boundary. Number 5, you talk shit about people if your boundaries suck. Okay, number 6, you're super judgmental. If you are not good at setting boundaries, communicating, prioritizing your wants, desires, feelings, even just your preferences, right? We're not even talking about it has to be a big deal. But if you have disordered boundaries, even prioritizing your preferences can be difficult. And it makes you think that every other person, especially people who do prioritize that, they're so selfish, self-absorbed, they're narcissistic, they are idiots, they are who raised them? Why don't they know how to behave in life? So instead of looking in, we judge someone else on the outside. Instead of saying, this is interesting that I just am so positive that I know what's going on with this other person, rather than just keeping my eyes on my own paper, figuring out, why am I responding this way? Why does this piss me off so much? And if you were able to ask that question, you would go, oh, Betty just really asserts herself in a way that I don't. And I want to judge her as being selfish and not a team player and self-absorbed. And yet there's a part of you, maybe, that's a little bit jealous that Betty might be a bit of a boundary boss and you kind of feel like a boundary disaster, Because I promise you, as you get on this journey, and I'm going to give you something at the end of this episode that you'll be able to start to explore your own boundary baseline. But as you continue on this journey, the way that you view and interact other people really changes. The people who you used to think were like aggressive and so self-absorbed and bossy, you might change how you view that person or the way they're behaving as your boundary acumen, right? Your IQ gets better, and you might not perceive it the same way. Because as you start asserting yourself more in an appropriate and healthy way, you start recognizing that in other people, and instead of feeling threatened by it, so you want to talk about them behind their back, you might have more respect for Betty. You might. And hey, listen, she might be a selfish idiot. I don't know. But I do know that these 7 signs that your boundary sucks is something, this is like a way for you to go, I'm seeing myself in all of these different categories, All right, moving on to the last one. You engage in passive-aggressive communication. Okay, so what is passive-aggressive communication? Well, it's exactly what it sounds like, but a more clear way of saying it is that it is indirect communication. And this is certainly an indication that your boundaries suck because it's very ineffective, right? I mean, we can only communicate 2 ways, effectively and ineffectively, which might sound obvious, right? But it's the truth. So when we are indirectly communicating by, instead of saying what's on our mind, how we feel, what we think, someone does something, and instead of saying something, we might roll our eyes, we might make a sarcastic comment, we might slam a door, we might start stomping around, right? You might stomp around the kitchen, you might slam that cabinet door a little bit louder than it needs to be slammed. Anybody? Huffing and puffing, any of that? And hey, maybe you're dealing with someone who is doing that. But this is definitely an indication that your boundary skills kind of suck and need some help, because not only is it ineffective, it keeps the boundary dysfunction going, which is the last thing you want to do. It's dysfunctional communication, but it's literally, you're making people guess why you're upset. And we make up all these excuses saying, well, they should know. And here's the thing, they should definitely know, because if they were raised right, they'd know. They know what they did wrong. You know what? So much of the time, literally, they don't, actually. So why not just take responsibility? And I know why not. Trust me. This is why I wrote a whole entire friggin' book called Boundary Boss, because there are so many reasons we don't know this. But listen, you can learn. It doesn't matter where you've been. It doesn't matter if you've been the biggest boundary disaster in the history of the world. I promise you that you can learn. And don't just expect yourself to know something that no one ever taught us. My family didn't teach me how to. I learned this through therapy, trust me, and years and years and years of being in the trenches with my clients. That's why I wrote a book called Boundary Boss. But I want to give you something that I think will really actually help you. So let's move into, think about it right now. How would others describe you? would they describe you as unreachable, distant, disconnected, or let's say aloof, right? I have someone in my life that would be described that way, who I love very much, one of my sisters. But that is one particular boundary style, what I just described. If someone asks you to do something and you really don't want to do it, right? You want to say no, but you say yes anyway. Hey, that's another boundary style. So I want you to take this free boundary quiz that I created for you. All you got to do is go to boundaryquiz.com, and that is your first step to overcoming your own specific boundary struggles, your own unhealthy boundary patterns. Because listen, we all have them, or I wouldn't have written a friggin' book about it, right? But this is how you can start to truly honor your needs, your desires, your preferences. So I want you to find out, are you the peacekeeper or the chameleon? I want to hear all the things, because listen, we can't change anything until we know what it is. So go to boundaryquiz.com and then tag me on social. Let me know. Show me that you went there and tell me what style you actually have. Thank you for spending time with me today. I so appreciate you. And as always, take care of you.